Hello everybody, and welcome back to more Misericorde. I couldn't decide if I wanted to do games and demos again, or to save that for Saturday, so yeah, I ended up deciding to go with Misericorde. Anyway, so last time, let me see if I could pull up Obsidian. Alright, last time we did stuff. Where did last time end? So we ended with this. So this is where we ended last, or this is where we ended the first session. So last time, we started exploring the monastery. Let's see. What is this? I cannot see the notification at all because my phone is in the way. Oh well. Let's see. So last time, Hedwig started to explore the monastery. She bumped into Flora at the cellar. Flora wonders why Hedwig is trying to take, or just broke her 20-year vow to steal a dead woman's job. We bump into Margaret. Margaret talks about how what was it? We bumped into Margaret in the courtyard. Margaret talks about how there's lots of secret passages and stuff like that in the building, and she asks Hedwig to let her know if she finds anything new, but she won't tell Hedwig any specifics other than there's a passage from the cellar to the kitchens in case you want to get a little snack. Let's see. What else happened? We bumped into Darcy and Eustace, where Darcy was having a weird vision, like a drug-induced vision, and Eustace was taking notes. It was the vision was about 2 words: fire and goat, along with other things. Rows and rows of bookshelves. Reader chooses a book they have not read before. Ink lashes like flame hurts the reader. The reader reads until the eyes are burned. Others ask what the reader reads. We don't know what that part means, but we do find out what fire and goat means eventually in this episode. We also find out that there's an extremely poisonous plant in the garden that Catherine with a K asked Darcy to take care of. It's apparently using a bit of extract on it makes your eyes seem bigger. Let's see here. We've heard that Catherine liked making people try new things. She made She made Margaret learn how to play the lute. We don't know what she told Eustace to do. I don't think. Oh no, I guess she got Eustace to try to learn cooking. Or making gaily. Let's see. We examined the sword, and then there's like there's a scene where Hedwig notices somebody upstairs, and she goes to chase, but when she gets there, or like she bumps into Angela, and then she gets distracted by that, and Angela accuses Hedwig of trying to become the next Mother Superior. And Angela also believes that the stable hand James Foreman is the true culprit of the murder. So nothing much happens until after Vespers, when she finds out that the weapon is gone, the sword is gone from the courtyard, or the cloister, or whatever it's called. And she finds out that Mother Superior has asked Eustace to hide it, or to put it away so that people can't use it for anything. And then that night, we bump into, or like, as Hedwig is trying to sleep, she hears the knock on her door. She opens it, and then she finds out that there's, like, some noise coming from inside the Misericorde. Well, like, seems to feel like people are having a party, and while she's kind of feeling bad for herself that she wasn't invited, she sees at the end of the hall, there's, like, a figure, standing with a goat. And then the figure is holding a sword. It points it at her, and then it raises the sword, and then all the torches, the sconces, whatever, go out, and then the sword suddenly on fire, and then the figure cuts off the goat's head with the torch, or with the flaming sword. And this terrifies Hedwig. She stumbles backwards. She falls down. She screams. And this causes, like, the people in the Misericorde to pop out, and there's a bunch of the nuns. There are a few of them hanging out. I think it was Catherine and Margaret, and Marta, and what was her name? Adela were all in there, and they were like they were wondering what the heck's going on there. And Hedwig tells everyone what happened, and they go to where the figure would be standing, but there's no blood. And then just as Hedwig thinks that they're about to think that she's just seeing things, there's a door on the far end that shuts really loud, and it scares everyone, and then they just start thinking it's just a prank. Then we find out in a little bit that Darcy was the one that was knocking on Hedwig's door, and then she just kind of scooted away and went hide as part of a prank. Let's see. On her way back to the dorm, or to the dorms, Hedwig also notices there's a black figure in the cloister that walks away as Hedwig goes to sleep. The next day, Hedwig is introduced to her job as the chronicler in the library. Eustace is kind of in a bad mood about all of this, so she snaps at Hedwig, and Hedwig goes and cries in the library for a little bit. Eustace goes to chase after her, tries to cheer her up, but she mentions that Hedwig should never go back there alone by herself anymore, without Angela's permission, without Eustace's permission, because Eustace apparently does not want people back there. We also get a little glimpse of where all the relics are hidden, or are locked away. And in the relic room, there also happens to be a suit of armor that resembles some of the gauntlets that were worn by the figure that Hedwig saw. Alright. Then, after Hedwig finishes her job, she goes and explores and talks to people. She runs into Moira, who's about to give them snacks. They chat a bit about food, and decide to talk about having a picnic. She bumps into Catherine and Margaret, who are helping in the cellars, which they say is a euphemism for not actually doing anything. She talks to Marta, who says that Adela has been asking her to learn how to make sherry, and apparently it's not going well. So Marta tells Hedwig to go find Adela, and Marta finds Adela with Darcy in the garden. They're picking carrots or something like that, and so Adela goes to deal with the new issue. Hedwig ends up helping Darcy until Angela comes in and is like, yo, you gotta go talk to Mother Superior. Mother Superior is like, sure, we've got to go. This is our best opportunity now before luncheon to go talk to the suspect at the hospitalum. So they go to visit the hospitalum where we meet James Foreman, and James says that he came to deliver mail in the morning, because the day before after he delivered the mail already, he went to the bottom of the hill and he found there was a letter there. So it was like, I'll go send this, give this letter tomorrow. It's fine. I'll just do it tomorrow. With my next delivery. And normally he would be handing his letters off to Catherine, but she wasn't there to get the letter. He looked around for her until he was caught by Angela. And that's basically when he started getting accused. He mentions that the tunic that was supposed to be covered in blood had been left on his cart, I think along with the sword. So he doesn't know why it would be covered in blood. He didn't meet anyone on his way up to account for him, but he did see Catherine in the library, where he was looking for the other Catherine with a C, who should have seen him he wasn't wearing his tunic. Then they decide to go and like try to make it back in time for luncheon, so that nobody notices that they're doing it, that anything is amiss. And that's basically where we stopped. So let's see, where did I last save? I don't know. Thursday, 8 o'clock, maybe? Dying is no excuse to not pick up letters. Quick saves. 205, 208. Alright. Yeah. So let's get started. Let's see what we discover today. Alright. Luncheon's going to be late today. I see. What happened? Well, a cat happened, I think. After a brisk walk through the grounds, the Superior and I had approached the rectory. According to her, we'd made perfect time. However, the rectory hall was empty when we arrived. Now Darcy was explaining to an increasingly bewildered Superior that Lindbro had received yet another mystery within its walls. A cat. I was roasting the duck when I heard some rustling and then some pots fell over behind me. Oh dear. Could have been a ghost. I was wondering if it was a ghost at first, but then I heard it meowing, so it was probably a cat. Well, we do know that Angela suspects that Catherine with a K, Catherine 1, has a cat hidden somewhere, so there's that. That is a relief, at least. Could be both. Anyway, while I was picking up the pots, I think it tried to eat the duck, because I heard it yowling and then it ran out the door. Oh, poor thing. Probably singed its whiskers. It's a disgusting creature, and I would have it bringing the plague in here. I'm not taking any chances. I'm making a new lunch. That's why it'll be late. Good. Is someone looking for the vermin? Eustace? Godspeed to her. Is everyone else informed of the delay? Nearly everyone was milling about outside the rectory ready for lunch, so I had to disappoint them. I think Adela and Marta are still in the cellars. And I suppose Moira was on her way to bell duty. Well, it seems like everything is in order. I look forward to the meal. She nodded at Darcy, who didn't seem to be paying her any attention, and then ducked out of the kitchen. They deserve to die of black plague for being mean to Cat. True! Yes, Soup, everything is in order. That's why someone died. Yeah, I'm so sorry. All right, my friend. I just wish you wouldn't pretend nothing is hanging over all of us at the moment. I understand. Well, what can you do? Some people are just detached from it all. Well, she's not really detached. She's just trying to be subterfuges. Hey, do you need any help with cooking? I have it in order, but thank you for the offer. You were already a big help with the carrot this morning. I gave Darcy a little bow and stepped out of the kitchen. I heard the bell, but there's no food. There was an incident in the kitchen, so things are going to be late today. I know, but the bell just rang, so... Hello, hello, you two. What was her voice again? Hello, you two. Ready for lunch? No, actually. It's gonna be late today, apparently. Oh no. I already rang the... Yes. Oopsie daisy. I've been so busy today. Me too. Me too. Oh, really? What you been up to? Man, I don't know how to do her voice. What you been up to? After service this morning, I felt tired, so took a nap. Oh no. Were you up late again last night? There you go, something like that. Up late again last night? What do you mean again? Oh no. I know you. Voices is hard. Don't listen to her, she's crazy. By the way, I think Moira's the most suspicious person right now. IMO. She's coming across as too unsuspicious, you know? Like, nothing she's done so far has been at all suspicious. Meanwhile, Darcy and Eustace and Angela and Catherine and Margaret have all done things that are suspicious, but not related to the crime suspicious, right? Moira is just a little too nice. A little too clean. Don't listen to her, she's crazy. Moira laughed and pulled Flora into a one-armed hug, which Flora seemed to appreciate very little. Yeah, everyone else so far seems to have had, like, big flaws. Moira's not got anything so far. Or, like, not necessarily flaws, but, like, not, like... not... You know, yeah, just not innocent seeming, not completely innocent. Not guilty of anything, but like they're little sussy, wacky people, and Moira is not that. Given that we had both seen Flora emerge from the Misericorde last night, it seemed that Moira was entirely correct. Though I was determined not to take sides. Have either of you seen a cat? Supposedly that's the villain responsible for the lunch delay. A cat? Would we even need one? Never seen a mouse here. Darcy said one got into the kitchen and was knocking things around. Got too close to the fire, poor little creature. It's just a cat. Do you like cats, Hedwig? I don't know, really. I imagine they're quite sweet. Of course, silly me. Always forgetting. You've never seen a cat. I suppose she wouldn't have had one in her cell. Right. Oh, they're a bit creepy, I think. Wouldn't know. The devil plays with the sinner like the cat does with a mouse, after all. Come to think of it, are there any cats in the Bible? I don't think they're ever mentioned, really. Oh, just one. Only one, actually. Mentioned offhand in the letter of Jeremiah as part of Baruch. Huh? Goodness, you really are a scholar. Hold on. What about lions? What about them? Never mind. Oh! I flushed red. It was deeply embarrassing to be bested this way, and especially by Flora. I wasn't even sure she'd actually read the Bible. Anyway, please. Well, it just goes to show all of us have places we could brush up on in our understanding of scripture. Indeed. I smiled weakly at the pair of them and took my leave. Alright, I forgot. The luncheon delay. Darcy, according to Darcy, Cat caused some trouble in the kitchen. Because of this, she decided to re-cook lunch in case of contamination. So lunch is delayed. At around this time, did they mention what everyone else is doing at this time? I think they were just kind of, everyone had been informed about the delay. Except, what's her name? Except Moira, who went on to ring the lunch bell anyway. Hedwig runs into Flora and Moira later, where they chat about cats in the Bible. Hedwig is embarrassed that she forgot to count the lions when she mentions as called out by Flora. When she mentioned, oops. When she mentions there is only one cat in the Bible. I was feeling quite strained after the morning's stressful events, and I wasn't sure how much more social interaction I could handle before eating. I was angrier than I should have been about Flora's observation about the lions. Angry at her or myself, I wasn't quite sure. Either way, I certainly did not feel up to the task of playing Inquisitor with Catherine. I decided to go for a stroll around the paths between the rectory and the garden. I'd been surprised by Darcy's shocking outburst, relatively at least, as soon as the Superior had been out of earshot, but I was now finding myself agreeing with her. But what was Darcy's shocking outburst again? I remember it happening, I don't remember what it was about. Oh, right. As the Superior leaves, Darcy comments about how she doesn't seem to care that somebody has died. But I was now finding myself agreeing with her. In total, the events of the past 2 days, day and a half really, had been unlike anything I could have possibly imagined while whittling away the hours in my cell. Do you find it mad too? I'd seen a ghost or devil in front of my very eyes the night before. And yet here I was, wandering around the Abbey grounds, overwhelmed by the prospect of talking to any more human beings for a little while. The others had not believed me when I told them about the monstrous apparition, and it was that doubt, I think, that might have kept me from unraveling completely. At that moment, the most terrifying prospect in front of me was sharing a meal in a room with someone who, potentially, had stolen a man's tunic to cover up a vicious murder. But then, surely all that paled in comparison to what I had seen in the night prior. An impossible creature threatening me with its blade before disappearing without a trace. If I'd held either of those scenarios in my head for too long, the grim tangibility of Sister Catherine's murder, or the possibility that I had seen some kind of devil with my own eyes, I felt faint. No, I felt worse than faint. I felt like St. Vincent on the rack, having to choose exactly which end of myself I preferred to have burned, one thought at a time. Are you writing any of this down, by the way? Oh, wait, oh, yeah, sure, I'll write it down. Hedwig, muses in thought about various things, but decides that everyone doubting her story about the apparition, has helped her from unraveling, because I don't really understand why she feels it helped her out. What'd she say? She said something about, like, because she didn't know if it was harder to believe that story, or that she was sharing, lunch with someone who was willing to cover up such a ghastly crime. Not that I'd mind if you did. She might not approve, though. I hear she holds quite fast to her rules, despite all appearances. Anyway. While wandering, I found myself at the door to the chapel. I felt compelled to enter. What better place to collect myself? If anything could ease my mind at this moment, it would be a moment's prayer. With some difficulty, I swung open the heavy door. You know, let's grab this screenshot. Hedwig finds herself at the chapel. I stroll through the aisle, taking a moment to gaze up at the high ceiling. To feel at peace for just a You've got to stop meeting like this. Sorry. It can be a little shadowy in here. That's quite alright. I'm just learning that I'm easily startled since leaving my cell. Margaret is there. Nobody could blame you for that. How are you adjusting today? Did you start writing? I did, as a matter of fact. Lovely. Eustace wasn't too hard on you? No. Liar. Is that what future Margaret or future Hedwig is saying? No. Liar. That's good. I'm sure you'll end up locking horns eventually, so be ready. Really? Eustace seems so quiet, generally. She is, but it's very easy to rile her up. Hedwig lies about, her interaction, omits her interaction with, Eustace. Interaction? What's a good word for this? I guess conflict with Eustace. And Margaret says to expect that the two should fight eventually. Should come to fight eventually. Because Eustace has a short temper. Especially if you disagree with her about something. She and Catherine used to bicker a lot, I take it. Oh, endlessly. Especially about chronicling. Margaret extended a hand to the pew nearest us. Care to sit? Butted heads a lot. Alright. Of course. We sat down together. Margaret gazed at the pulpit briefly before continuing. Eustace is very intelligent, and Catherine was too. And intelligent people sometimes enjoy having a go at each other for sport. Bunted heads are festive. It's how they show affection. What on earth would Catherine write that would irritate Eustace so much? I didn't read much of her chronicling, to tell you the truth. I don't think anyone here does. The job is really about writing something down for people to argue about years later. I suppose if we're living here, reading about it wouldn't be very interesting. Catherine had the same thought. She wrote about all kinds of things. I'm meant to do that as well, I think. The letters, yes, those were her sticking point. I think you're meant to just copy them word for word to mark time, but Catherine would go quite deep on some of them. There was one instance a couple of years ago. Yes? Actually, no, I thought of a better one. Have you heard of Rhymes Cathedral? Rhymes? About Catherine's letter writing. About chronicling. Although she had a different story in mind before changing. Have you ever heard of Rhymes Cathedral? No, actually. Reims, then. If it's French, it's Reims, would it be? I don't know. very big cathedral in France. One of the biggest, in fact. It's quite grand. Anyway, it was damaged in a fire, and Catherine was meant to write that down. Catherine was meant to write down about the fire that burned Reims Cathedral in France. Instead, she demanded to write a letter to the municipality over the smallest detail. There was a note in the letter about how the King of France had granted the city an octroi, and that funds for the repairs were coming from a tax on salt. With a quibble about a tiny detail. That, what? That was more or less what everyone else said. Catherine was furious, though. What on earth for? Well, I certainly think none of us would have noticed, but she had a point. Had granted the city an octroi, and the funds for the repairs were coming from a tax on salt. What is an octroi? Octroi. Translate octroi. Grant. Okay. Okay, but what is she arguing about? And the funds for the repairs are coming from a tax on salt. That the funds for the repairs were coming from a tax on salt. I guess she's mad that it's from a tax? I don't know. France taxes salt heavily, and Catherine thought it was highly unfair that the building was going to be repaired with money she said was being stolen from the poor. I admit this is completely beyond my understanding. Which Catherine believed would, I'm trying to think of a word. It's like imbalanced. Man, brain, please come up, please remember words. Yes, there you go, disproportional. Thank you, that was the word I was looking for. I must admit this is completely beyond my understanding. Not to be confused with disco proportions. Everyone needs salt and everyone in France is taxed on it equally. It's how you make food survive the winter, for one thing. But it's an incredibly useful and valuable thing. I dread to think how much we spend on salt here, to tell you the truth. But mercifully, we don't have to pay quite the same way the French do. It seems like a petty thing to pick at. The building needed repairing. Yes, but Catherine was beside herself for days. In order to visualize, please imagine Catherine standing next to Catherine. I remember her stalking around the halls, muttering to herself in very poor French. I don't know how to pronounce French words. Au diable vos... Vos? Do you pronounce the vos? Vos flèches. Vos flèche. Flèche? Flèche. Flèche. That sounds more German, pronouncing it like that. Au diable vos flèche. Which is meant to be damn your spires or some such. Eustace forbade her to write it in a letter to the diocese on the subject. forbade Catherine from writing such a letter. A letter on the topic to the diocese. She's going to tell the diocese, damn you spies. Margaret threw her head back and laughed, clearly enjoying a fond memory. The diocese. Oh. Oh no, that was... Okay. The diocese? No, she was demanding to send a letter to the king. My goodness. Catherine sucked for days after Eustace told her off for that one. All over a building. It isn't about the building. It's about the soul of the very church, is what Catherine would tell you. She really found it distasteful that the repairs would be built at the expense of the people's basic needs, and wanted to make that known to anyone she could with a say in the matter. It wasn't the only time she got herself worked up over a building either. She heard about the last remaining ruins of the Lighthouse of Alexandria being paved over to build a way for it. And she spent a whole week badgering Adela, asking if she knew enough Arabic to help her write a letter of complaint to the Sultan. She's so funny, Catherine. Enough Arabic to write a letter to the Sultan of, I guess, Egypt? Did Egypt have a Sultan back then? I guess Ottoman Empire? I don't know. I don't know who owned Egypt or who had the area over Egypt in the 15th century. Wait, was it library or lighthouse? Lighthouse. Ottoman sounds reasonable, or a chase. I can understand her position. Just, it seems so fruitless. Sounds rather cruel to put it that way, but... Margaret grinned and shifted in her seat to face me. That's the essence of most of the arguments Catherine got into around here. You're not wrong, but... You're not wrong, but... And so on. It sounds quite exhausting. I suddenly felt my stomach drop. Not to speak any ill of her, I mean... Margaret laughed again. You're fine. People said far worse of her while she lived. Angela once accused her of writing down her own 12 conclusions. Most people thought that Catherine's arguments would really not have it, or were mostly pointless and would affect nothing. Angela accused her. Oh, I don't know what the 12 conclusions are. I found it rather touching that she can put people in awkward positions like this. Her influence reaches beyond the grave. Beyond the grave. Do you believe in ghosts? Spirits? Sounds quite a question. I apologize if it's a touch strange to ask. Just... You're not the first person who's mentioned feeling Catherine's presence lingering to me, or wished aloud for it. It's not a problem. But I should warn you that if this is an extension of your practical joke, the others are going to find bringing Catherine into the proceedings very distasteful. Would you believe me if I insisted there was no prank? I would be curious to know what other explanation you could give. If you really saw what you claimed to see, why are you still here? Why didn't you start running and stop only when you reached the next village over? I'm still mulling over the idea of running, to tell you the truth. But I don't think I could. That's interesting. Hedwig brings up the topic of ghosts and insists to Margaret that perhaps her prank was not actually really a prank. They both wonder why Hedwig hasn't run off yet, if such were the case. Believe it or not, that makes me slightly more inclined to accept your story. Really? Very slightly. I have no explanation for what I saw, only that I saw it. A real monster menacing me with a wicked blade. It sounds absolutely chilling. The thing is, if I ran, where would I go? A few days ago, I hadn't been outside of my little room. I feel like if I left, you'd be experiencing the same confusion 10 times over. Yes, that's a good way to put it. The devil, you know. I understand the feeling. But you don't believe I actually saw anything. Saw anything. You don't accept the existence of ghosts at all? Evil spirits and the like? I was practically begging for reassurance at this point. I wouldn't say that. I saw something once in the cellar late at night. A little devil with bulbous eyes and malformed teeth. Hedwig asks if Margaret believes her, but Margaret isn't sure. She does, however, bring up an anecdote, a story, a time she saw a devil herself with bulbous eyes and malformed teeth herself in the cellars. In the cellars? But don't you sneak down there to raid the pantry some nights? Well, as I said, the devil, you know. And sometimes I get quite hungry. You're pulling my leg, aren't you? Now why would I do something like that? We sat in silence for a moment. Finally, Margaret stood up and stretched her arms above her head. That's not above her head. I think that's enough of that seat for now. Luncheon will still be a bit, correct? Let's go for a walk, you and me. Certainly. She walked briskly out of the chapel. I was too slow to help her with the large wooden doors, but she managed to quite well enough on her own. She ushered me past, and then took a step ahead as the doors closed. Then they go for a walk. Margaret wanted to lead me somewhere, and I could not guess where. To tell you the truth, I have always had mixed opinions about the existence of ghosts. I've seen so many things that end up being tricks of the light. Biggies in the fog, that sort of thing. Invest in hinge oil? Listen, it's expensive. Especially when you're up on a hill. Where are you gonna get the hinge oil? For years, the knocking and scraping in the walls here kept me up at night. It's just the house settling. But these buildings are very old and not particularly well built. That's the sort of thing I'd like to try and comfort. That's the sort of thing I like to try to comfort myself with as well. But it's a bit different when you're all alone at night, isn't it? Yes. So do you believe me? Perhaps I do, perhaps I don't. But either way, there's something I'd like to show you. We were walking up the stairs to the second floor. Hold on. We're gonna need a candle for this. She jogged into the dormitories, and after a moment emerged with a light candle on a pricket. Come with me. She took me down the hall, toward the intersection where I had seen the sword-wielding spectre. There's no blood or anything here. We already looked. We're going a bit further than that. My heart jumped into my throat. Going down the hall to my cell? Just about. We walked together quietly for just a while. This hall always made me feel uncomfortable. For a moment, I felt affronted that Margaret would even dare talk about what this hall might make her feel in my presence. Presence? But I suppressed the urge to chastise her. Nonetheless, Walking down this hallway felt more precarious than my first encounter with the stairs. But I take it you didn't come to the hagioscope very often then? Not for your advice, I'm afraid. Margaret wants to show Hedwig something that takes them near where Hedwig's hagioscope was. We arrived at my cell. Margaret handed me the candle and began rapping her knuckles against the stone wall. Eventually, she found what she was looking for. She inserted her fingers between two of the old stones and pulled. To my shock, the wall swung open to reveal a passageway wide enough just about for one person. Uh-oh. Secret passage. Or secret tunnel. Alright. Wide enough for just one person. There's passageways all over the place. This isn't what I wanted to show you, though. Follow me. Where does it go? Oh, God. She took the candle back and entered the narrow tunnel. I followed her nervously. Most abbeys have passages like this because there needs to be some space between the walls, see? It's an architectural thing. I think it helps the air as well. That's what my father used to say, anyway. So this passageway isn't in and of itself particularly interesting. However, we kept walking until we finally came to a corner. Here we are. She took a few steps around the bend and beckoned to me to join her, like I was saying before. I've always been non-committal about things like luck and ghosts and curses and so on. But this has always bothered me. And there have been too many things happening lately for me to discount it entirely. Parts of the Abbey falling down, Catherine's death, and now your ghost. By this you mean... Come closer. She held out the candle in front of her to better illuminate what she was referring to. I try not to take this passage anymore, because this makes me nervous. I gasped when she realized what I was looking at. No, I realized what I was looking at. Oh my god, what is this? A pentagram? These passageways, she says, aren't entirely unusual due to structural or architectural reasons. However, on one corner, she illuminates something with her candle. I did not know what it was, but it filled me with enough dread just to look at it that I knew it was wrong. Evil. A geometrical etching which Hedwig immediately believes to emanate evil. My stomach churned as I remembered the superior's words to me about the provenance of the Abbey. Was the construction of this place really so mysterious? How could something like this have been allowed to make it into the very walls of the building? The work of some possessed builder, no doubt. A house of God built with no oversight and ill intent. I speak of it eloquently now, of course. However, in the moment, all I could muster, was something far less considered. Oh my god. She used God's name in vain, oh my god! Margaret grinned weakly. Steady on. What was it you told me about cursing? Looks like a clock. Ancient Mayan clock. I didn't speak a word the whole walk back to the chapel. I was deeply disturbed. I didn't know what that horrible symbol meant, and I didn't want to. One look at it was enough to tell me that something dark was at work within the walls. Something I did not want to meddle with under any circumstances. We arrived at the chapel doors, and Margaret turned to me. Tira, it's a bit grim, but I've lived with it for ages. I try not to muck about with the unknown, and it doesn't muck about with me. Margaret's been avoiding this passage since she found it. Much. Anyway. We do know that even before things started, Hedwig did see something outside. Even before we learned her name. she saw something outside. You know, let's screen cap Margaret. Oh, that being said, I think I might take credit for the prank if I were you. Even if it wasn't you. Why would I do a thing like that? Like that? I don't know. It just seems like something you'd want people to think you were capable of. You've got to keep people guessing, eh? You've got to make a name for yourself. I think I'll stick to being the chronicler. Right, yes. I forgot to mention it, but I'm sure you'll do great work at all that. You ask good questions. It might annoy Eustace, but I think that's critical for the job. I'm afraid most of my words since leaving the cell have been questions. And I'm afraid I don't have quite the same verve that Catherine seems to have had. There's no need to worry about it. Don't write like Catherine, write like Hedwig. I bowed my head, attempting to hide my flushed cheeks. My soft pride had allowed this sliver of a compliment to rush to my head. I didn't feel too chuffed for too long, though, because the chapel bell had just begun to ring just above us, scaring me out of my wits. I must have jumped several feet into the air out of shock. Margaret was grinning ear to ear when I came back down to earth. I clutched my chest instinctively, doubled over, and tried to regain my composure. I think my two favorites so far are definitely Margaret and Darcy. They're funny. Sorry, the superior told me to run and ring the bell for luncheon. I didn't see you two there. I could hear calling out to us from above like some apologetic angel. Margaret called up in response, apparently unfazed. It's all right. How on earth did we miss you? I came in through the back door. The superior never locks it. Yeah. I really am so sorry, Hedwig. Didn't mean to give you such a scare. That's quite alright, Moira. Alright. Margaret suggests that Hedwig take credit for the prank. She also suggests that Ewig will come into her own as a chronicler. And the church bell rings. Is rung by Moira. Scaring Hedwig half to death. Alright. Lunch had passed without much incident. Now that I was no longer expected to sit through extended introductions of myself and others, I could enjoy my food in relative peace. Darcy's cooking was excellent and much appreciated, though I was beginning to realize that the emotional reservoir that eating refilled was shrinking with each passing meal. Part of this, perhaps, was the worried anticipation that someone might casually mention seeing the superior and I walking back from the hospitalum earlier. The amount of secrets I was responsible for already felt unsustainable, but the idea of those secrets coming to light was even worse. I participated in the conversation around the table superficially, just enough to avoid being asked if something was wrong. I was unsure I'd be able to lie and say no. The Bible, of course, has plenty to say about lying. Bearing false witness breaks a commandment. Although in my time locked in a cell, I'd read many musings from scholars smarter than I about whether or not that meant all untruths, or if the commandment was speaking strictly about matters of court. I've told you my views on loose interpretation, but the Bible is inerrant. There is no getting around the fact that midwives lying to the Pharaoh's men saved many lives, for example. Still, it was difficult to feel I was acting as selfishly as I did. I felt closer to Augustine than Cassian. Okay. Uneventful lunch. After luncheon, We filed out of the rectory to return to our duties. Eustace made a beeline to the stairs up to the library, and even though we had made up after this morning's spat, I felt inclined to keep away from her for a bit longer. Catherine slipped out of the rectory before I could ask her about James's story. I must admit I was relieved to once again have an excuse to avoid that conversation. I was more interested in the symbol Margaret had shown me, which I feared indicated something far more sinister than I or the Superior were prepared for. The symbol, Margaret seemed wholly unperturbed throughout her meal. How? I could not understand it. Just thinking about that twisted shape made me sweat. It had been so close to my cell. How had I never felt it? Had it woven some dark spells in me and I just hadn't noticed? Was it responsible for who I was? The mistakes I continued to make? The concessions I made without verbal complaint to fit in with these women? The lack of a fight I'd put up to the Superior as she broke the seal on my cell? Was that thing responsible? These thoughts ran rings in my head until I felt as if I had been sprinting in circles for too long. I did my best to shut them out and decided instead to wander down to the cells, somewhat hopeful that it would keep me out of sight for the afternoon. After all, the cool air of the cellars would perhaps help clear my head. Alright. Hedwig, would you be so kind as to settle an argument between myself and Marta? I'd chosen poorly. I don't know what to title this yet. Untitled. Wrapped in thoughts. Wrapped in thoughts? Let's do racked by, nervous thoughts. Hedwig goes to the cellar. Attempt to clear her head. However, she gets roped into a discussion between Adela and Marta. Argument? Try this. Is it supposed to smell like that? Not you too. It does smell absolutely rank, Adela. Adela was holding a stinking ladle over an opened cask, waving it between our faces with a great deal of indignation. As I told you yesterday, Sister Marta, it smells like this temporarily. It gives the wine its flavor, and you can already taste it in this barrel. Go on. Must I? Better you than I, I'm afraid. I'm afraid I might keel over if I inhale much more of this miasma. With trepidation, I took the ladle from Adela's hand and held it up to my lips. The half-finished wine smelled truly foul, enough to make me cough. However, Adela was glaring at me with such determination that I was ever so slightly more afraid of her than the liquid. Closing my eyes, I braved a taste. It was actually not that bad. It was nowhere near as disgusting as the smell. However, it was clearly not meant for drinking yet, and whatever sweetness I could detect on my tongue was soon covered up by a watery and weak fruit flavor, which was all soon replaced by the overpowering stench of the ladle and barrel. Are we together? Unbelievable. About the stench of the in-progress cherry. See, even half fermented, the power sherry holds is undeniable. How long will it take to come into its own? It takes several years to properly ferment. This batch is quite young. It only started when it first arrived. I have been dragging Sister Marta into the future. Thank God this isn't the only wine I have to work with. You have help! Surely you're not rotating all the casks throughout the Solera yourself? Of course not. What's the Solera? All of these barrels they have to move. You bottle some of the oldest wine from the bottom cask and then refill with some of the youngest. Then rotate that back to the top. It keeps the quality consistent, and it means that some of the oldest batches in every bottle. She took a moment to spoon the ladle into the liquid and try to sip herself. She smacked her lips and looked thoughtful. That sounds arduous. Too right. Helps to have some unruly younger sisters around to threaten with manual labor. I am always happy to help with winemaking. Believe me, I know you are. So does Darcy grow grapes too? Oh no. I use some fruits from the garden to flavor the other wines, but the grapes are from the village. Soap with the tar is good for vineyards, but it gets too cold up here around the Abbey proper. Naomi recently finished the last harvest and brought it to us, hence the Sherlaya. There certainly is an awful lot of work to do around here, it sounds like. Thank you for saying so. Some people don't appreciate just how complicated our work can be. Speaking of, I should really tend to my next task. Sister Hedwig, would you work with me? Alright, about to send to the... again. The process of, making the wine. And Marta mentions that although she flavors it sometimes with wine from... or with, plants from the garden, the grapes come from outside. I bowed my head to Marta, who responded in kind, even though she was preoccupied with sealing up the test cask. Adela walked me back through the rows of wine barrels and up the stairs, striding with purpose. I struggled to keep up as she crested the staircase into the halls around the cloister. Sister Hedwig. How are you finding Misericorde Abbey? Oh, I'm not used to it yet, obviously. Yes, it is obvious. I hope you do not mind me saying. Not at all. I am also new here, and I can tell you that you are suffering in the same ways I suffered. Alright. Decides to take Hedwig for a walk. She recognizes the suffering of unfamiliarity in Hedwig, of the area, of the monastery, of the abbey, in Hedwig, as she had herself when she was newer. I nearly blurted that out. Oh, wait. Oh, was I? Was I suffering in the same way as Adela? I nearly blurted that out, but managed to restrain myself. You're anxious, you are confused, you are eager to please everyone you meet. I was the same way for a while, but you must not be afraid to stand your ground when you feel you must. I don't know what you mean. You're doing it right now, Sister Hedwig. You know exactly what I mean because I'm describing you as you are acting for me as we speak. What is this about, Adela? Have I offended you? Only my sense of justice. I want what is best for you, Sister Hedwig. I want to see you thrive. I do not retreat into your shell like Sister Flora does. She has an excuse, she is not yet 20. But you are nearing 30, are you not? Tell me, Sister Hedwig, was the sherry really so bad? It was quite disgusting. Of course it was! Marta's going to ruin all of it before it is due. But surely it couldn't be anything but foul midway through the aging process. I'm no expert, but I thought wine took time. It would taste strange no matter what, but the taste I had after you, it was all wrong. I've worked on many wines, and I've learned how to taste how wine is going to taste. And that sherry is not coming together as you described. It was more of a guess. It was a lie. A polite one, but untrue all the same. I'm sorry, but shouldn't you be telling Marta and not me? Oh, I will be marching back to Marta in just a moment, believe me, Sister Hedwig. But I want to help you as well. Never be afraid to speak your mind. She thinks that Hedwig needs to be more assertive and less polite. The others will respect that much more than endless acquiescence. I find that hard to believe. See, you're already catching on. No, I'm not practicing, I just don't understand. I don't want to fight everyone. You said anything about fighting? I am not saying you should be contrary. I am saying you should not pretend to be someone you are not. Be Hedwig. You're not the first person to tell me this today, believe it or not. Oh, the more reason to take me seriously, please. I have been in your position before. I have felt lost and overlooked. But I became much happier when I stopped trying to please everyone. I had no way to explain to Adela that beyond the thrust into an entirely new world of social interaction, I was also trying my best to ingratiate myself to everyone for a reason. I mean, when you try to do that, you just seem fake, though. See? Parting heads with Sister Angela was more than enough conflict for me. And given that I was here to unmask a murderer, I felt that drawing too much attention to myself was unwise. Being the newcomer had surely made me visible enough without tempting fate. But there was more to it than that. Quite simply, I had no idea who Hedwig was. Anyway, I have other business to attend to, and then I will be giving Sister Marta a piece of my mind. And then by supper, we will be friends again. This is how things work. You must be strong. I will try. See that you do. I'm on your side, Sister Hedwig. Adela gave me a surprisingly firm pat on the shoulder and left. I stood in the corner we had been conversing in for a short while. I found Adela's penchant for romantic language somewhat charming up until now, but I did not appreciate these trickly platitudes. I was bouncing between embarrassment and fury. I needed a moment to myself. It was not yet even close to supper time. The days here, it seemed, would be excruciatingly long until I settled into a routine. As I calmed down, I thought about where I should go next. I'd already bothered Eustace enough for one day. I didn't want Darcy to get sick of me, and I just left the cellars. Moreover, I haven't a clue where anyone would be at this time of day. Margaret, Catherine, Moira, anyone really. I yearned for the comfort of my cell. At least there my tasks had been clear as crystal. Around this time, I'd usually be settling in to copy some Bible pages after reflecting on some scripture. It was almost automatic. Perhaps I'd while away the evening in illuminating a page in gold leaf. With a start, I remembered the last page I transcribed before leaving the cell. The book I threw it out of the window. Surely it'd be weathered by the elements now, but I felt a strong urge to go and reclaim the half-finished tome. If nothing else, it would be a comforting reminder of the last time I'd had a clear sense of purpose. Alright, let's see here. Be Hedwig, she says. Echoing Margaret's words from earlier. Hedwig doesn't appear to take all this well. And after, and she decides to distract herself until supper time by going to look for the manuscript she had thrown out the window the night before she was removed from her cell. Did I read that? I don't know. It wasn't a terribly long walk to the side of the building my old cell window had faced. There were no paths on that side of the building, however. The terrain was uneven and the grass was quite tall. It was strange seeing the buildings from this side. In the courtyard and cloister, everything looked flat and mathematical, but here the earth rose and fell like waves around the stone. There was an immense forest not far from the abbey on this end, and my heart leapt into my throat as I remembered the mysterious figure I'd seen standing not far from where I was searching now. I recognized my window high up on the wall. There actually weren't many openings on this side of the building. Most of the glass windows faced inwards toward the cloister. The book was not here. A chill ran up my back. I'd seen it the morning after my tantrum, clear as day. Was I truly going mad? I hallucinated the book before the ghost and goat. She was unable to find it where it lay the morning after. I scanned the tall grass around me. Maybe it had slid down the hill or bounced in a fashion I had not noticed. Goat ate the book. That's why it got its head cut off. Perhaps I was simply looking in the wrong spot. Try as I might, I could not find it. Unless it had been swallowed by the earth, the book had been moved. Who in their right mind would want a half-finished Bible soaked by rain and tainted by my own bile, no less? Then my foot slipped. I rolled down the hill with a yelp. As you wish! I tumbled several times, legs overhead, end over end. Hey, don't laugh, it was quite terrifying. What if I'd broken a bone or fallen into some inescapable hole? As she looks, she slips and tumbles down the hill. The hill. I came to rest against a small tree. I scrambled to my feet, using the trunk for leverage. I spat a little grass out of my mouth and groaned as I realized my habit was covered in grass and dirt stains. What a mess. She's gonna have ticks by the end of this. What a mess. It was then that I saw something highly curious. A piece of fabric was dangling from a branch on the tree. I was leaning against. It was a small strip of black cloth. I carefully detached it from the sharp bit of branch it was stacked on. That would mean the figure I had seen that night outside my window was real. She, notices some cloth snagged in the branches, somehow, of a tree. She uses, of a tree at the bottom. Of the tree that stopped her roll. She stopped. That feels like that would hurt. Would you yelp? I would give that fall 2 stars. Would slip again though. Let's see. And believes that it comes from the figure she saw that night. I felt some small amount of relief that I was at the very least not completely mad. But then I doubled back. Could a ghost or demon not take corporeal form? The monster I had seen that night before had certainly been solid. Neither of these ideas were particularly comforting. What's more, I certainly wouldn't make any headway on the mystery stranded out here. I stuffed this clue into my white stocking and began to hug myself back up the hill to the abbey. I'd not fallen that far afield, but it was still quite a steep trek. I decided I would walk around the other way, whence I'd come, just to complete my impromptu tour of the outside of the abbey. It was actually a little more even and flat the further I ventured around this side, which was a relief. North grounds. The opportunity to explore the surrounding area of the abbey. I was able to stick close to the wall. I didn't feel like falling down any more hillocks that afternoon. Hello? I jumped. I didn't notice a small little square window low on the outside wall of the building, through which I could just barely make out Darcy's face. Goodness, you startled me! Hello, Darcy. What you doing out there? I just felt like going for a walk. Hadn't seen the abbey from this side just yet. Oh, interesting. I hadn't thought of that. Yes, just a whim, I suppose. It's giving me a sense of place, though. Did you fall over? Yes, I did. Oh no. Darcy, please. Passes by a window she didn't notice. Darcy calls to her. Nice. No, sorry, I'm not trying to be cruel. It's just that we've all done it. We've all done it. You've all fallen down the side of the hill. Happens to me all the time when I go hunting for mushrooms and so on. She herself falls every time she looks for mushrooms there. Apparently, it needs more than 2 stars. I think this is the place that's a very revisitable fall. I see. But it looked rather funny when you fell there. Did you roll? Yes. Good, that's how you stay safe. Really now? That's just if you'll break something. Laura did that once. Oh no! That's fine, she's young, her bones are supposed to break. Good for the constitution. Broke a bone once. Falling there. Well, I'm not sure if they're supposed to, but better to break something young so it can heal. That's right. What are you up to? What room are you in? Oh, this is just a funny little window in one of the holes. Oh, I suppose I'm close to the cloister on this end. That's right, and above the croft. Fascinating! Buildings are strange. Anyway, I was just on my way back from picking bitter veg from the stores. There's, I was just thinking about this earlier today. I don't know why it came up. But, like, my apartment complex, every time I'm inside of it, my sense of north, south, east, and west are just completely fucked. I have no idea which way is which, and I have to imagine, like, I have to picture the actual layout of the building and remember how it's positioned relative to the rest of the city to remember which way is north. And every time I try to remember, I forget every time how I remember it. Anyway, I was just on my way back from picking some bitter veg for the stores. Oh, should I be worried about our stockpiles? Oh, not at all, but it never hurts to have around just in case. That's wise. Well, I should be catching on. I should quite like to be back within the walls. Absolutely. She smiled widely, and then disappeared from the window. The rest of the walk back was uneventful. I mean, like, it's not like it matters if I know which way is north inside my apartment. Like, when is that ever gonna come up? But, yeah, it's just really, it fucks with me. When I finally made it around to the cloister, I let out a weary sigh. My clothes had only just been washed, and I'd already made a mess of them, and the tumble down the hill had left me feeling a little queasy out of sorts. Hedwig! Oh! Darcy says she was fetching some bitter velch. What is bitter velch? Vetch. What is vetch? Fetching some vetch. What is vetch? I don't know what vetch is. Salad green? Okay. I've just been picking some bitter vetch for the stores. Alright, Hedwig runs into Catherine in the cloister. Near the cloister. Around the cloister. I guess she's on the second floor right now, though. Wait. Oh, Catherine! Hello. You look like you fell asleep in a field. Are you alright? Yes, I just took a little fall. Well, at least it was down something grassy and not the stairs. Don't be cruel. I stomped my foot and puffed up at Catherine, who looked bewildered. You're acting like a fucking teenager, girl. Excuse me. Would it be funny if I fell down some stairs, huh? Would it be amusing if I broke my neck because I haven't used stairs as often as you? Hedwig, you're being a touch dramatic. Oh my! Am I being... I gulped up a little bit of black bile once more. I felt dizzy. Hedwig? Hedwig! She reached out to stop me from collapsing. Oh dear, overstimulated again today. I gurgle something unintelligible in response. And Hedwig snaps at this. Unprovokedly. Overreacts to this. Overreacts with anger. This. Then Hedwig, I guess, chokes down, the black bile in her throat. Catherine worriedly, steadies her. Catherine hoisted me to my feet and began to lead me toward the stairs, her nose wrinkled. Ugh. We need to get Moira to take a look at you again, I think. That doesn't seem normal. It was perfectly normal for me. Is it? As I half-heartedly walked with Catherine up the stairs, she declined to crack a joke this time. I reasoned that my propensity for spilling black bile all over the place was my punishment for breaking a lifelong promise to God. It didn't matter how noble the cause the superior thrust upon me was. I had been an anchoress and now I wasn't. This is just how it's going to be, I'm afraid. What, the vomiting? This is exactly what I was talking about. You're acting hysterical. I broke a sacred vow. We arrived at the dorms. Catherine plopped me onto the bed, but didn't let me go. Instead, she squeezed my face with her hand and bent down to peer at me. I'm no doctor, but you look ill. Just like she'd done when we first met, she licked her thumb and rubbed it roughly against my face. Dirty, honestly. I hiccuped again, and a little bit more bile oozed out of my mouth onto my hood. Stay put. I'm getting Moira. Then she goes to fetch Moira. She let me fall into the pillow and left in a hurry. I groaned loudly, feeling more frustrated than unwell at this point. Closed my eyes just for a moment. Hedwig! Moira and Catherine were looming over me, looking concerned. Moira? Oh dear. Still feeling a bit off, are we? She was acting very out of sorts and then coughed up all that again. Hedwig, is this more or less bile than you expelled yesterday? Less, I think. That would make sense to me. She's fine, Catherine. She's only adjusting. It's no, you know. Moira let out a gentle chuckle. It's not the Black Death, Catherine. Unless you've got some buboes. The buboes of the bubonic plague. Some buboes you haven't told us about, Hedwig. Buboes? Moira reached beneath my arms and rummaged around. It was so sudden that I wasn't able to react. I was even more taken aback, when she moved her hands between my legs and squeezed my inner thighs without warning. Nothing? Catherine, you really mustn't worry. She's just not used to the air outside her cell. Bodies react strangely to changes in their environment. It's highly normal. This was humiliating. I felt like livestock being inspected for ticks. You should be inspected for ticks, though. You were kind of rolling around in tall grass. If Hedwig has the Black Plague, but Moira, after a quick inspection, doesn't think so. Believes it's just an adjustment period. Let's see. According to, home inspection helpline, yes. Ticks can be found in tall grass. She was very weak. Not to mention, well, a little out of sorts. Her attitude was very strange. Catherine, I think sometimes you may just have that effect on people. Catherine looked affronted, but Moira simply took her by the shoulder and led her toward the door. She just needs a little rest again. I'll bring you some more of Darcy's mint later, Hedwig. And if you pile your clothes up, I can see to it that they get washed. I grunted in appreciation. Moira gave me a little smile and ushered Catherine out of the dormitory. I shut my eyes, but unlike the last time I had expelled all this goo, I wasn't particularly tired. I felt humiliated, stretched thin, and emotionally exhausted, but not tired. My mind was running in circles, in fact. I opened my eyes once more. If I really was to rest in my room for the afternoon, I should make something of my time. I scrambled out of the bed to strip down as Moira had requested, bundling my habit up into a ball and leaving it near the door. The shred of cloth I'd recovered from outside was still in my stocking. I hid it under my pillow for safekeeping. Alright. Let me just reread what that was. They leave Hedwig just to rest. Hedwig is unable to sleep. So instead, she goes and stashes away the cloth she found in the tree under her pillow. I got down on all fours to reach under the bed. Perhaps now is the perfect time to read the play that Catherine had left for me. Have you ever read Medea? I did not make it through the whole play in that one sitting, I will admit. Found the whole thing intriguing, though extremely confusing. I fear that I simply didn't have room nor head for some of the knowledge required to enjoy it fully. These pagan gods and foreign ideals, they confused me. I assumed there was a point to all of it, that Catherine might have been able to teach me, but without her guidance I felt lost. To be frank, the section I read was perfectly ghastly to my understanding. A jilted wife plots to kill her husband's new lover, and the new lover's father along with her. I suppose they didn't have Bible scripture to turn into in those days, so it was an interesting window into a world before the word. However, when the heroine's thoughts wandered to murdering her own children in kind to prove the cause as much pain as she possibly could, I closed the book. It was too horrible to think about. The Medea. I'm not sure what I had expected, but in my memory Catherine had been so excited to share this with me, suggesting that I would appreciate its contents. What on earth could she have thought of me to assume that I would have enjoyed this of all tales? I wasn't angry, I suppose. It was just a story after all. Just had no clue what to make of it. Really, it hurt most that Catherine wasn't around to explain what she had been thinking when she planned to give me this. I'm sure she would have had a good answer. I did eventually doze off after reading a bit of the play. So we know that the, Catherine's old chronicles are missing. It's entirely possible that if we were able to find them, they would have some explanation for things. I did eventually doze off after reading a bit of the play. It wasn't for long, however. Moira soon arrived to take my laundry away and provide me with some more mint. Since I didn't feel like walking around the Abbey in my nightgown in the middle of the day, I was stuck in my dormitory. This would usually suit me just fine, although with nothing but to play I'd had to fill up to read. I soon became restless. Luckily, I eventually had a knock on the door. He is appalled. Rather appalled with the contents. Moira comes back for her clothes. Hedwig's clothes. You drop off some mints. And then Hedwig decides to stay inside longer so she doesn't have to walk around in her nightgown. Charity knocks on the door. Charity comes knocking to collect alms. Are you awake, Jerry? Yes, please come in. Moira told me you were still feeling a little under the weather, so I brought you some sage water. Oh, how lovely, thank you. Charity set a pitcher and mug down on my small reading desk and sat down in the little chair. She poured a generous amount of the drink into the mug and handed it to me, which I accepted gratefully. This is very soothing. I've always sworn by it myself. Drink it once a night. Would be dead without it, I reckon. Really? Maybe, maybe not. But I wouldn't take the chance and stop now, would you? I suppose not. Darcy isn't half clever with plants. Could well be that she's discovered a way to grow sage that'll make us last forever. Well, when we're all over 100 years old, we'll know who to thank then, won't we? Charity chuckled and wagged a finger at me. Careful now. I may not be as far off from that age as I look. You don't look a day over 30, Sister Charity. I couldn't help but feel jovial around Charity. We had barely spoken, but there was an aura of kindness and warmth around her that I could sense immediately. Oh, what a cheeky. Has Flora been putting you up to flattery like that? Flora? Flora? Flattery? They chat about its potential health benefits and ages. No, actually, Flora and I haven't spoken all that much yet, I'm afraid. She doesn't speak much at all to anyone. Until suddenly she won't shut it. Comes with her youth, I suppose. What were you like at her age? Much the same as I am now, I believe. I was in the cell that entire time. Or stupid me. While you're remarkably well behaved for someone who hasn't spent any time around people, that much I can tell. Aside from all the fainting and puking. Well, who hasn't fainted and puked around here? You got everyone good last night with that little prank. I'm surprised Catherine didn't keel over. We're a fragile bunch, and nobody here will judge you for that. And if they do, well, let her who wasn't passed out in the Misericorde cast the first stone. I've been meaning to ask, what actually happens in there? Hedwig, the Misericorde comes up, and Hedwig asks what happens within. You know what a Misericorde is, yes? In theory. I know the rules of St. Benedict are less stringently adhered to in here. That's right. Or in there. That's right. You can have four-legged meat in there, if you fancy. It's mostly for guests who aren't to be expected to follow the rules. But we get so few visitors, it's more of a little clubhouse for us. I see. You're welcome to pop in sometime, as long as there's room. It isn't a den of sin or anything like that, it's just a touch more relaxed. Mostly the girls play chess and complain about the superior. She let out a hearty laugh. And leaned over to flick my arm. I smiled back. I didn't want to get into an argument with Sister Charity of all people. Especially when this is the first time we'd really spent any time together. I would like to step in, to be sure. Only half the nuns can be in there at any given time, so let me or Marta know ahead of time if you want to hang about. It's not a problem usually, but I do hate having to kick anyone out. Of course. God damn it. I've got voice leaking going on here. Charity says it's just a little bit more relaxed. Only half of the nuns can fit inside at once. Play chess and complain about the superior. Only half the nuns can fit inside at once. So, if he wants in, Hedwig ought to let Charity or Marta know in advance. Nobody needs to get picked up. Of course. Where does the other half usually spend their leisure time in the evenings? Well, we've got our own occupations, haven't we? Darcy's got her little projects. Margaret likes to go on wonders. Besides, it's not like the Misericorde is the only place we're allowed to relax. It's just the only place we can relax and have a spot of lamb to boot. What do you like to do? Well, Sister Marta and I will often sit in the cloister with some wine and gossip the evening away. There's a few wooden chairs down there. It's lovely on summer nights. That sounds restorative. Not half. When the moon's high, you hardly need a torch to see. The stars are lovely to watch. I'll have to try that sometime as well. You'd be more than welcome to join us, I'm sure. Although I'd worry we'd bore you to death with our old lady chatter. I'm not much of a conversationalist myself, as I'm sure you've noticed. You're better at it than Sister Angela, and that's all that really matters. It's alright, girl, spit it out. She's rather mean-spirited, isn't she? Charity started laughing heartily. Goodness gracious, that's the kindest thing anyone said about her in recent memory. Well, Sister Angela is a creep and a busybody. The topic of Sister Angela comes up. Charity calls her a creep and a busybody. A creep, huh? Alright. In terms of other places to relax, Charity suggests the cloister, where she and Marta drink wine and gossip. Creep rings true to me, or rings odd to you? Yeah, creep seems like an interesting word to use. If she's been bullying you, come to me. I'll sort her out for you. We haven't had any run-ins that dramatic, I promise you. Well, regardless, the offer is on the table. She was a right terror to Adela when she first showed up. Flora as well, for that matter. Although Flora might have brought that on herself just a little. I snort laughing into my sage water. Just a little. Thank you, Sister Charity. I will keep that in mind. There was a knock on the door. Charity held a hand up to stop me from getting up myself and stood to open it herself. Sister Angela is standing on the threshold, looking particularly icy. Speak of the devil. Hello, Sister Charity. My ears were burning. How long were you standing there listening, you gangly creep? There's a knock on the door, and who should it be but Angela herself? I guess she really is a creep. You gangly creep. Gangly. Charity wonders how long she's been creeping about, listening in. Not long. Your voice just happens to carry, and it would have been rude of me to interrupt. Sorry, Angela. Don't you dare apologize, Hedwig. I've seen the way Angela treats you, and I know the way she treats all kinds. You have nothing to be sorry for. If I must have been with Sister Hedwig is admonishing her for running in the holes. Is she, for some reason, exempt from the rules? Oh, don't give me that. You've been staring daggers at her ever since luncheon yesterday. You're imagining things. I wouldn't be the only one. Have you found Catherine's cat yet? Well, I'm off. It was pleasant chatting with you, Hedwig. I'm off to see Darcy. I have some questions about nectar for her. Angela sneered at Charity, as Charity pushed past her into the hallway, but held off from saying anything in return. She didn't speak to me either, Instead, she simply dumped a fresh pile of clothes into the dormitory floor, then to leave. God, she's just like dropped it on the floor. Angela of being mean to Hedwig and everyone and others. But Angela insists that all she has done is admonish Hedwig for running in the halls. Then Charity leaves, and Angela drops some fresh clothes onto the floor. Thank you. She didn't respond. I carried the embarrassment of that encounter around with me for the rest of the afternoon. In the hour or two I had free before supper, I wandered the halls and exchanged pleasantries with anyone who passed me by, but I was preoccupied. Supper tasted like ash. Why did I feel so wretched, given that Charity had been completely correct? Angela treated me horribly in my brief time within her reach. There was no denying it. From the way everyone else spoke of her, it sounded like I was not the sole target of her ire either. I deserved it. The suffering Angela seemed intent on inflicting upon me felt like appropriate punishment for all my sins. In fact, if that had been all I had to endure, I might say that I'd gotten off lightly.